Alright, we got a pretty good rain after I side dressed and held these up, and that was really good. Their potatoes are looking really well. I'm really pleased with them for the most part. I did find something, I learned something that is kind of interesting. You take a red potato, they have kind of a pinkish or purplish bloom. Oh, look at there, now that's a little tater coming out of the ground right there. And that's basically what you hill them for. They'll come right out of the ground. They won't turn bad. But anyway, they're looking pretty good for so far. But I had a little episode today. I come down to check on, see how things go. And I found something that I haven't had to deal with for quite some time. But for all y'all who don't know what a potato bug looks like, that's some little critters, little bugs that's crawling around, like right there. That's a potato bug. And this plant here is just loaded with them. And you can see how they can just devour and ruin a plant. It's bad. So what I do here, I use a Sevin Dust, and I just sprinkle the Sevin Dust on these potato leaves. And these little bugs, they won't like that Sevin Dust, and they'll leave pretty quickly. So you can see how they've, right in there, all those bugs just eating that leaf up. And there's another round of them right in here. But yeah, this is the first time I had such a infestation of potato bugs. I've always seen a one or two, three or four when I grow potatoes, but very rare that I had to treat it with Sevin Dust to get rid of them. And it's used to get a 10%, and then they started giving a 7. And I think this stuff here is 5%, but it seems to work. So I'll just sprinkle these plants with it and get rid of these bugs, and maybe they'll get rid of them and I don't have to do it no more, hopefully. Alright, bye. Got all the potatoes pretty well covered in Sevin Dust now. I guess we'll give them a day or so, or after a while or something, see if I run them bugs off. I was trying to show you something a while ago. I don't think I showed it to you very good. All my life, as growing up, I never ever grew white potatoes. My mom always grew red potatoes that I remember, and I've always grown red potatoes all my life. They make a nice, good, creamy mashed potato. And when they bloom, they have a pretty little bloom. Looks like that. And that's a red potato bloom. And man, they look pretty. When they bloom in that, my mom always said that's when the potatoes was making. Now, where they are or not, I don't know, but that's what my mom always said. But this year we decided to plant some white potatoes, and we bought a bag of white potato seed. And this is something I did not know until this year. A white potato has these pretty little white blooms. And I didn't know that. That's something I learned this year, that, white potatoes have a white bloom, and red potatoes have a kind of a purplish or red. I don't know, they're not red, but they're more of a purplish bloom. But the white potatoes produce a white bloom. You can see that right there. It's just a pretty little white bloom. If these potatoes make potatoes as well as they're growing vines, I ought to have lots of potatoes. Potatoes didn't make very good last year, and we ran out of potatoes and had to buy a few to get through the, up to now. So this year we bought a double batch of reds and whites. It's white. I've learned something else. Red potatoes, when you cut them up and you're trying to get 3 eyes per chunk, you cut them up in chunks and you try to get 3 eyes per chunk. Well, the red potatoes have more eyes on them than white potatoes do. So, in that being said, you'll get more seeds out of a red potato than you do a white potato. That's my experience of this year, and you could tell it. I got 4 rows of red potatoes out of a 50-pound bag, and of the white potatoes out of a 50-pound bag, you can see that you see where the whites blooms up in there, but they peter out, and I finished that row out with reds in this whole. What's interesting here now, these were supposed to be all red potatoes, but there's a white bloom over there in that one. It's kind of odd, because I know these were seeds that I grew out of red potatoes last year. Be kind of interesting what happens and what we dig up when we harvest. But anyhow, I put out my leftover tomato plants. I put my best tomato plants up in the raised bed at the house. And the leftovers I come down here and stick. And I get a tomato or 2 or 3 off of them. They're not usually very good. But I did the same thing with my peppers. And I added some fertilizer to these after I put them out. And then it rained on them. And apparently I put too much fertilizer. It turned that one right there white. You know, it's way too much fertilizer. I hope it survives. It might not. Cabbage. Don't know whether I don't think that one there is going to survive at all. They ain't much left of it. And that one and this one. I put out a bunch. I learned another thing. I never started cabbage by seeds before until this year. And cabbage, well, the seeds I had very poor germination. They didn't do very good. But so you need to put more seeds in your little cup when you start your seeds. Start your cabbage plants if you want to, if you want to have anything. These are onions. Now, I put out a batch of red onions and a batch of white onions last year, and the white onions were starting to rot, and so I dug them up, and the red onions didn't do very good, so I just left them in the ground. They've been there all winter, and they've come out and look like they're trying to make an onion. Whether they will or not, we'll see. I did get some corn planted here the other day. I'll try to get a video of that, but it ain't come up yet. That's only on I think it's the 6th, and today's the 10th, so ain't none of that come up yet. And I did put out some sunflowers over there. We'll see if they come up. Alright, I'm going to go back to the house, sit down and rest for a bit. Hopefully my garden is done for the day.